Welcome back, everyone, to Watcher of All Things, Episode 4. My name is Kiki. This is my podcast where I talk movies, TV shows, I review them. We talk everything in the entertainment industry and all the news that's been happening. I hope you had a great week. It's been honestly chaotic for myself. Just yesterday, I had a cortisone shot in my hip because I've been having hip issues for the last about 10 months. So I got that done and my ass is very sore today. Yeah, it feels like I got a flu shot in my butt. That was fun. Then today I had a massage in my back. That was phenomenal. It was only a half hour, but it still felt amazing. And then she's like, has anyone ever told you have a scoliotic curve in your back? Don't worry, it's really common. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Just like happy Friday morning, finding out that I have, some scoliosis, at least some scoliosis. But anyways, I digress. That's what's been going on with me, just watching Survivor and finding out I have scoliosis, I guess, is what's going on. And we have lots to get through today. There's been so much news, especially surrounding Disney this week. We have the passing of a legend in film, and we have a great review today. We're going to talk about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is an Amazon Prime television series that I really enjoyed, and I can't wait to talk about it today. It's really great. So this week, Disney's Bob Iger came out and talked about kind of where the Marvel Studios franchise is going in the MCU, and he admitted that Marvel has lost focus and will lean more into sequels and franchises going forward. I have an article here from comicbookmovie.com that you can, if you look it up, you'll find it immediately. And it says, Bob Iger has once again addressed the current status of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, confirming that there will be less focus on streaming content and more on stronger franchises in the future. And this comes after last year, trade reports had claimed that Disney intended to scale back on Marvel Studios content, and that's both on Disney Plus and the big screen, and implement more of a quality control approach going forward. And now Bob Iger is saying, I'd say we're leaning a little bit more into sequels and franchises. I think given the environment and given what it takes to get people out of their homes to see a film, leaning on franchises that are familiar and is actually a smart thing. In our zeal to greatly increase volume, partially tied to this wanting to chase more global subs for our streaming platform, some of our studios have lost a little focus. So the first step that we've taken is that we've reduced volume, we reduced output, particularly in Marvel. And it was also reported that they would be using, speaking of volume, the volume surrounding visual effects thing that they use, where it looks like it's a digital background, that they've used in lots of the Star Wars things. They've used it in Marvel. So I guess that's going to be less implemented. Hopefully that means more on-location shooting or real sets, because the volume can be very noticeable at times. And I think this is a very good thing for Marvel to just, come out and say this, because, it might draw more attention from viewers, because it might become more, public knowledge that, Marvel's really trying to focus on smaller scale stories and really try and put more quality control into what they're putting out. Because, as I've discussed on this before, I think Marvel is having a saturation issue and just a real lack of quality when it comes to their projects coming out. It feels like everybody is just making, just the most average things, and then they throw it on Disney Plus or they throw it in theaters, and everything doesn't feel whole. It feels everything that they're making feels very done at 60%. There's very rarely things other than Guardians of the Galaxy 3 for me that have felt like there has been, 100% commitment from both the studio and just the script itself. I feel like perhaps the actors and the directors are doing what they can, but it does feel like their hands are tied somewhat. So I really do hope, as someone that really loves everything Marvel, and I love superhero films, I love comic books, I love comic book movies, I really hope we do see a return to form for Marvel, because it is good for the industry. It keeps theaters alive. On the other hand, if Marvel does perhaps have a little break, that's good for other original projects to get more attention, but, other original projects need to get butts in seats, and I think in the last year with Oppenheimer and Barbie and there's been lots of films that have really proved that people still enjoy going to the theater. So, yeah, it'd be nice if Marvel could get a return to form and get, their fans enjoying going to the theater again, instead of dreading, what are the 10 things I need to watch before I go and watch this movie? Do I need to see that Disney Plus TV show that came out and was 5 episodes and was critically panned? Do I need to see this? Do I need to see that? I think if they just have a lot more, I just want to say, like, control in what they're putting out and really have more of a focused story approach, I really do think Marvel can come back swinging, and I think DC is going to do really well with James Gunn in charge, because everything he did for Marvel was really well made and felt very focused story-wise. So I think with him as the creative control with Peter Safran DC, they're going to do very well and only put out good scripts, employ people that know how the script should look when it's the final product, and not just, have the studios strangling them with creative control. So I hope Marvel, can be a good competition for DC. Maybe we'll see a few years where DC is dominating more of the zeitgeist with Superman Legacy or Supergirl, as I talked about last week. So we'll see what happens from here, but I really hope Marvel can figure it out. In another piece of news, Denzel Washington and Spike Lee are reuniting to remake Kurosawa's High and Low with A24 and Apple. So Denzel Washington and Spike Lee are reuniting for their 5th film together, the first since 2006's Inside Man. Apple Original Films and A24 are partnering on High and Low, which will be releasing theatrically by A24 after a global launch on Apple TVs. Yeah, that's great news. I think that's A24 with another possible big hit on their hands. You never know. I think Spike Lee is a name that draws people in, and I think Denzel is even more of a name that draws people in. I love Denzel. He's the best actors ever. I was going to say of our generation, but I think he's just one of the best to ever do it. So I think this is a really great thing. And I got to say, Apple Plus is, or Apple in general, I guess, I think they're really investing in some great films and great projects. Like I really loved Killers of the Flower Moon, and that was an Apple production. Having said that, they were part of the Argyle. So, at least they're investing in directors and letting them create their vision, because Argyle was as Matthew Vaughn as it gets. And Killers of the Flower Moon really did feel like a true Scorsese project where his voice was coming through, and so this could be really great for Spike Lee. I think this could be a hit on their hands. And I can't wait to see it. I've loved numerous Spike Lee films. I loved Da 5 Bloods. BlacKkKlansman I thought was a phenomenal film, and that was Denzel's son, John David Washington, in that film, and I thought he was phenomenal. And that's where we saw Adam Driver. Other than Star Wars, for me, I didn't watch Girls on HBO. I think the first time other than Star Wars where I saw Adam Driver was BlacKkKlansman, and I was like, yeah, he's a hilarious actor. He has great comedic timing. And then that was the first time I ever heard, oh, Denzel Washington has a son. I didn't know he had a son that played football and was good getting into acting. So yeah, I think that could be really phenomenal, and I very much am looking forward to the direction that A24 is going in. I think they're making really smart moves. They're trying to get some bigger budget movies, but they're also still maintaining that indie film status that they have, which makes A24 what A24 is. Moana 2 is coming to theaters this November, reveals Disney's surprise announcement. So I have an article from People magazine here that says not only is a live-action reimagining of Moana also in the works, but Moana 2 is getting an animated sequel in addition to the upcoming live-action one. Apparently it was supposed to be like a 3-part television show, is what I saw on X or Twitter or whatever, and now it's become a movie. We'll see how the script translates from being a television show to a movie. Maybe it'll benefit, because if it was only a 3-part TV event, it couldn't have been that big of a story that it needed 8 episodes. So perhaps it will be great for, a 90-minute kids movie. So that I think that's great news, because Moana 1, the first Moana film, was amazing, and it was a huge hit for Disney as far as I can remember, and it's still so popular now. I feel like a lot of people, if you ask them their favorite Disney movie of the last 10 years per se, they'll say Inside Out and Moana. Like, those two just feel very cemented as possibly the goats of new Disney films. So this could be really great. And according to a synopsis, Moana 2 takes audiences on an expansive new voyage with Moana, Maui, and a brand new crew of unlikely seafarers. After receiving an unexpected call from her wayfinding ancestors, Moana must journey to the far seas of Oceania and into dangerous, long-lost waters for an adventure unlike anything she's ever faced. So yeah, just great stuff. I think that will be a huge hit again. And the animated sequel is directed by Dave Derrick Jr., featuring music from Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear, Opate Aisha Fouawi, I'm so sorry, I'm butchering that name, and Mark Mancina. Yeah, the hit 2016 film is also getting a live-action version coming soon, with Dwayne Johnson reprising his role of demigod Maui there. So you can look for Moana 2 coming in 2026. It'll be in theaters and no doubt be on Disney Plus right after. It is, of course, award season right now. You probably listened to my Oscars nomination episodes and predictions. It feels like every year when it's the award season, we also sit back and evaluate the award season process, especially the Oscars, and revolutionary ways that they can try to give out awards that reflect the current landscape of films and filmmaking, but also the viewers' perspective. So we had, the fan cheer moment or whatever that The Flash and Zack Snyder's Justice League won, which is stupid. And the Film Academy has just announced that they're going to have a new Oscar category. So I have a Hollywood Reporter article here that says Film Academy announces new Oscar for achievement in casting. So this is going to be first in 2026. So we still have this year and next year without it. I think this is actually a very interesting award because you have films like Barbie, you have films like Oppenheimer, where feels like every face that you see on screen is someone that you know from something. And this is kind of just the best ensemble award, kind of, but I think this is giving more credit to casting agents or casting departments, which is really great because you hear it in a lot of award speeches that people thank their agents, they thank the director, they thank the writer, they thank their fellow castmates, but they also thank the casting people because of how great a job they do, and also they give them the opportunity to win that award. So I think there's so many legendary casting people in Hollywood or film and television. I always think of Allison Jones, I believe is her name, that did The Office and like Parks and Rec and has worked on all of those shows. So it is an industry that kind of gets looked over a lot, the casting department. But I think that possibly because a lot of time when people go in for auditions and stuff and they meet the casting people, they're met with people chewing gum, people taking phone calls, people just chatting while someone's they're all in an audition. But I think this is a good award that could really highlight the difference makers within casting processes and people that really are just great at their job and help create such a phenomenal ensemble, as we've seen in Oppenheimer, as we've seen in Barbie, as we've seen in past lives. Just great choices like the Iron Claw. You have Zac Efron as Kevin Von Erich, and yeah, I think this is a really, really interesting award, and I kind of like this kind of stuff, and I think in the next 10 years, we are going to see a huge transformation with the Oscars. I think we'll see lots of different awards because, like I said, the Oscars are really a reflection of the landscape of movie making and how viewers are taking in movies, what they're enjoying. And so I think they're trying to make new categories that speak to the landscape that they're operating in, like the fan cheer moment. Movies are nothing without the fans and the viewers. So they're trying to have basically a top 10 most magical moments in the theaters that got people out of their seat or whatever. And even though I think the fan cheer moment was largely a fail and it was weird that it was the Flash, whatever, there was bots involved and bullshit like that. But I think this is a really interesting award that I honestly would never have thought of. I think like a stunt award would be really good. I just think there's many parts of a film crew or a production that go unnoticed much of the time, and the only time they're spoken about is maybe briefly in a speech by the director or a writer, instead of really getting the recognition for being a major part of a production and putting that puzzle together. And I wanted to end the news section this week on a bit of a more sad note. I couldn't do this episode without talking about this, but Carl Weathers, prolific actor, famous for Rocky, Mandalorian, Happy Gilmore, Predator. I mean, he's Apollo Creed. He's hilarious on Arrested Development. He has unfortunately died at the age of 76. It was reported that he died peacefully at home with his family and there was no cause of death available, but his family did put out a statement saying, Carl was an exceptional human being who lived an extraordinary life. Through his contributions to film, television, the arts, and sports, he has left an indelible mark and is recognized worldwide across generations. He was a beloved brother, father, grandfather, partner, and friend. And I think, Carl Weathers has been a part of my life, certainly, in numerous projects and in different contexts. I mean, the first time I ever saw him actually was in Happy Gilmore, and he was hilarious. And then the next time I saw him was Apollo Creed in the Rocky films. And I was shocked that was the same person, how he could be so funny in Happy Gilmore and then have this great dramatic role in Rocky, and then Arrested Development, where he's playing himself and just always making jokes about having a good stew on. He's certainly been a major part of my life, and I think he has cemented himself as a legend. In many ways, there was a lot of touching tributes from, Sylvester Stallone and all of the Star Wars crew, because again, he's in the I didn't even talk about Mandalorian really, but I love him in the Mandalorian and he's so good in it. Yeah, 76 years old. That's a real legend, and I hope he rests in peace. So this week, we are talking about Mr. and Mrs. Smith, an Amazon Prime TV show, not the movie with Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, which I did like as a child, but this is a new 8-episode TV show. It's season 1. It's not a limited series, and as I'll get into, I'm hoping there's a season 2. And it's not actually the same story as the movie. It's actually adapted from the 1993 TV show, 1991 TV show, I want to say. And it's two strangers land jobs with a spy agency that offers them a life of espionage, wealth, and travel. The catch, new identities in an arranged marriage. It's 8 episodes. As I said, it's all available on Amazon Prime. It all dropped last Friday. It stars Donald Glover as John Smith, Maya Erskine as Jane Smith, Paul Dano as Hot Neighbor, Parker Posey as Other Jane. Beverly Glover is actually playing John Smith's mom, and that's Donald Glover's real-life mother, and she's really funny in it. Wagner Moura as Other John, Alexander Skarsgård, Ron Perlman, Sharon Horgan, Dave Attell, John Turturro is in this. It's crazy. Michaela Cole. I don't want to give too much away. I'm gonna, like last week, I'm gonna do a non-spoiler section where I just talk brief details, nothing about plot, but just about the actual production value, what's really great about this, what I enjoyed most, and then I'm going to get into specific details about the actual season itself and the major plot points. So this is the non-spoiler section, but if you want to go in completely blind, I suggest you pause this, go binge all 8 episodes. It's such a bingeable show because it's just so much fun and you really do enjoy it. And this is a show written by Donald Glover and his writing partner that I believe he worked on Atlanta with, Francesca Sloan. Yes, Francesca Sloan. And you might remember that originally this show was Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Donald Glover, is how I remember it. And then Phoebe Waller-Bridge left due to creative differences. I believe they both talked about this publicly, that it was really disappointing that they couldn't make it work. I've kind of read into it, and the way I understand it is Donald Glover had a lot of his writers come over from Atlanta. I mean, Francesca Sloan worked on Atlanta with him, I believe. They're writing partners. All of his writing crew kind of came over. There was a very clear difference in how they viewed the show. That I believe I read somewhere that even how they wrote the pilot was very different from each other. Just the tones were very different and the directions of the stories. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she stepped out. She said, clearly this isn't working. And I think she or he said, like, oh, it feels like a real life divorce that they're having, because they really do get along well, and they really like each other. I feel like Phoebe Waller-Bridge was supposed to play Mrs. Smith, but Maya Erskine came in and was cast in her role, who is, I mean, I know we lost Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who I absolutely love, but Maya Erskine is amazing in this show. She is so good as Mrs. Smith. I think if you enjoyed TV shows like Barry, which have great action and great production value, but are also really funny and have a lot of good, like, dark-ish humor, this is the type of show you're going to enjoy. And with Barry ending this summer, I believe this is a perfect time for this TV show to come out, because it scratches the itch of a lot of fans. So like I said, there's 8 episodes. There's first date, second date, first vacation, double date, do you want kids, couples therapy, naked and afraid, infidelity, and the final episode, a breakup. Not a lot of, giveaways by the titles, but I feel like it's not a wildly unpredictable show, but I think it's such a well-balanced, funny, well-directed, supremely paced show that just every episode I loved, and I was just on the edge of my seat. It's fun, but it also has great emotional beats of, these two strangers being put in this really strange situation, but then there's, mixed signals. Are we actually in love, or is this all part of the job? Is this real? What's real? And then the strange world that they're a part of, and not knowing who to trust, what to trust, and stuff like that. And I think just the world that they build in this is so great, and how they have adapted it from, another TV show and another movie. Yeah, overall, I would really summarize just how great the humor is in the show. It's just every episode has such a big laugh moment. There's always funny moments every 20 minutes. It can go from a wildly serious chase scene or, gun chase, showdown, carjacking, whatever, to all of a sudden one of like the funniest moments. And that's what I really loved about Barry, and I think that's what I see a lot in this TV show, and that comes from just great writing and story points, and it's just it's super well done, and I cannot recommend this enough. My parents are watching it right now. Actually, without even recommending it, my friend Seamus just the other day said, oh, what I started watching was Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and I was already like 5 episodes in. I'm like, that's awesome to hear that other people are watching this, because I think this is a show that I want to see more of. This is so well done, and I'm so happy that they made it. I feel like when they announced this was happening, people were like, oh my god, they're remaking a movie, when Yeah, they were actually remaking a one season canceled TV show from 1991 and not just redoing the movie, but as a TV show, even though there are great nods to the movie itself. This is just a great show, and I think Donald Glover and Maya Erskine have such great chemistry with each other, and the casting in this show is just phenomenal. I mean, Jonathan Turturro's in episode 2 and that's it, and he's so great in the role he has. Ron Perlman's episode was one of my favorites, and there's great episodes in Italy where they're together, and it's so fun. And I just really enjoyed, I actually really enjoyed the timeline of this show and the attention to details, because between episodes time passes and you can see that they're doing more missions together and the relationship is growing. And I really enjoyed that the world continues on without the viewers having to see every second. You can see it's very clear that they've grown closer and done tons of missions, and we're not just seeing the 4 missions they've completed. You get to see them kind of grow as agents, but also get to watch them grow as a couple. And I read out that cast list, and there's just so many names that you snap your fingers to and be like, oh my god, they're in this? Like, they're so great in everything they do. I mean, Paul Dano is in this as the hot neighbor, and he's so funny in his role, like what he's doing, and he's just he's playing such a straight man in this, and it's so great. And I won't get into spoilers like what his role is revealed to be in the finale, but I love it. And like Ron Perlman, it's not really a spoiler, but like they're a target that he has to, or that Mr. and Mrs. Smith have to go get Ron Perlman and extract him, and he's their protected witness or whatever, the target. He's a bad man, and they need to get him from point A to point B, and shit just hits the fan. Everything kind of goes sideways, and he's just so funny as like I don't know, just his role in that episode, because that episode is called Do You Want Kids? And enough time has passed with them being married that they start to talk about, did they ever think they would have kids? Do they want to have kids? And just the setup of the episode is Ron Perlman is like this drug addict bad guy that's like, kind of sick, and he's old, and they have to take care of him. So it's so funny that as they're facing this roadblock in the relationship about their opinions about having kids, Ron Perlman is acting like a child the entire episode, and they're both taking care of him. And it just leads to some great comedic moments. And also, I think that episode actually has a great car chase in it that I really loved, and just a great action in general and really funny moment. And I think every episode has something like that, where there's great action set pieces and then just really funny setups and character dynamics. So this is just an overall great show. I think I've discussed what else can I say? Non-spoilers. I said attention to details. I sometimes in TV shows notice stuff. Like, you can tell when people are fake eating in TV shows. They're just kind of spiraling the food around on their plate, but not ever putting it in their mouth. Or like taking the smallest bites possible, which I get it. It's a TV show or whatever. Or when they're texting, they just flawlessly text like everything correctly. When I text, I make about 1 billion typos. But in this show, they literally show like the autocorrect and them going, like Jane is writing a text to Hi, which is the agency they work for. And you can see she's doing typos and editing her text. And it's something stupid that's like not addressed in the show, but just showing that, I just appreciate that kind of authenticity, which is just, I don't know, it's such a small thing, but it's just like cool to see that, oh, they're actually showing like a realistic like texting moment or whatever. Or Ron Perlman's character, when they extract him and they have to get him to another point, he has to go pee. And I feel like you never have, like, in spy stuff, you never have someone's like, oh, I really got to go pee during a mission or whatever. And it was just, that's such a funny moment. But it's like, yeah, that's true. Like, I have such a bad bladder that I would have to pee on every mission, especially if I was nervous. So just, like, stupid little things like that are so funny, but just kind of show a new realism around spy stuff and espionage that's really great. What else can I talk about? Non-spoilers, really. Yeah, time frame between the episodes, awesome. I mean, they have one episode where they goes to a couples therapist, and then it shows like the missions that aren't shown between the episodes. Like they're talking about those missions, and we get little flashbacks to those, which is really great. Like not every episode is an entire mission. Like there's episodes where there's multiple things happening, and there's a really great like pacing to the world. I find it's not just like, oh, we're just gonna see every day is an episode or whatever. It's months. It's like a year or whatever of this season. And I just really enjoyed that. I think the pacing is so great within the episodes itself. It doesn't feel like a slow burn, despite what I've read some people say online. They're like, oh, it's too slow. But no, I think it's just really it's building the world, and then like when the laughs come, it's earned. When deaths come, it's earned. The ending itself, I feel, is very earned, which I'll get into in a moment. But just overall, I'd say this is such a great show that deserves so much attention. And, as disappointing as it is that we didn't get Phoebe Waller-Bridge in this, I still think what we did get was amazing, and Donald Glover and Francesca Sloane deserve a lot of credit for the world they built and they wrote, because it's so damn funny. The action is so phenomenal. The storylines are really great. I thought the finale was awesome, and I loved it. I stayed up just to finish it because I was like, I can't stop now. I have, the last episode. I got to see where this goes. So now I'm going to get into spoilers. And so if you don't want to know any spoilers, but you're fine knowing kind of minor details, listen to the last section, but stop here. Stop here, go watch it. I'm going to talk about some major plot points. And I think what's really great is from episode 1, it's a really interesting dynamic that these two strangers are put into. When the show first opens, you see Alexander Skarsgård, and he's a John, and he's with another Jane, and it's clear that they're going to make a run for it, and they're tired of being spies because they're actually in love. But very quickly we see they are assassinated, and it establishes, if you enter this world and sign up for this job, there is no getting out of it. There is no running away, because they have people that will come and find you and kill you very quickly. And that's a great thing that goes out. That's such a phenomenal setup for the entire show, because we wonder who are the Mr. and Mrs. Smith that killed those Mr. and Mrs. Smiths, which is revealed to be the couple that our Jane and John have dinner with on a double date. And in the final episode, they're sent to kill John and Jane. So I think just the opening scene of this series sets up the rest of the series so well, which is what you want. It constantly plays in your mind. And I'm going to start with the ending. The ending is a cliffhanger because, as I said, they're running away from that John and Jane that are there to kill them. And they make it to, like a panic room. And John is very badly wounded, and Jane has one bullet left in her gun. And there's a Jane outside banging on the door of the panic room, waiting to get in. And our Jane says, I'm going to go out there. I have one bullet left. I'm just going to try and kill her. And all we get as the final scene is a shot from outside looking at the windows. And we just see the muzzle flashes, but we see 5 of them. And she only had one bullet. So either she was shot 5 times, or, she shot the other Jane with her one bullet and her gun accidentally went off 5 times. So it's a cliffhanger, but I was actually very okay with it. I was very happy with the ending because I already wanted season 2, but this just left me like ready for a season 2. I wasn't like, are we ever going to find out? I'm like, yeah, we're definitely going to get a season 2 because this show rocked, and I can't wait for us to get a season 2. So yeah, the ending episode, I think for me, there was no weak episode. There was no episode where I was like, I don't know, that didn't really feel like it went anywhere. Even like couples therapy, the one where it almost feels like a bottle episode because you spend a lot of the time in the same room. But I actually really love it because we get the flashbacks to all of other missions that weren't major plot points, and like the issues of their relationship that they're going through with the counselor. That's really funny. It's just a great episode, and I'd say it might be the funniest episode actually. And actually, Sarah Paulson plays their therapist, and she is just so funny as kind of this. She's very feng shui and granola. And I think she's really funny. Like John and Jane leave after their session, and she just sits back and pulls like a vape out of her chair and starts hitting the weed vape. And then her kid's yelling from another room, and she's just like, "Mommy's working." And she's so funny in it, and just the way she talks to John and Jane is it's great. There's so many funny episodes. I mean, First Date, the first episode where we see John and Jane, meet each other and they're matched together. It's such a weird dynamic, and then they go on their first mission, and it just does such a great job establishing the vibe of this show. Like, they are chasing down and stalking this older lady, and there's a hilarious moment where she makes out with the guy that's way younger with her or whatever, and it's just like, and they're both so weirded out by oh, that's weird, and it's awesome. And then they deliver this cake to a house. They deliver a box not knowing there's a cake inside, and then the person they deliver to opens the cake, And they walk out, they're like, wow, they have us delivering cakes. And then a huge explosion goes off behind them. So they just start running away, and it's just awesome. It was so funny for a first episode. It just felt like, yep, I'm ready for 90 more episodes of this. And then, the second date where they go on their first vacation, it's in a wintry Italian slopes or whatever. It was so good. I really enjoyed that. And I think that's where you really see that, there is action quality. And there's very well-directed action in this TV show. And then I think episode 4, where they go on a double date with another John and Jane that they meet at like a supermarket. I think that does a really great job of discussing the world they're in, because I think it is a very interesting world of John and Jane's and who is who's the agency that's like anonymous that they're working for. We never understand who that person is. Maybe that could be a season 2 where they find out who's above them. And you meet the other Johns and Janes, and they're talking about how the missions go for them and stuff like that. And then the hilarious climax of that episode is they're all super drunk, and then it turns out the John and Jane that they met at the supermarket are on call, and they have to go on a mission at the end of the night, and they've all had a bunch to drink, and then they invite Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, John and Jane, to come on the mission with them. And then when Donald Glover and Maya get in the helicopter that's about to take off, the other two, John and Jane, just leave. Like close the door of the helicopter and just wave at them and, all right, bye, have fun, or whatever, and leave. And it's such a funny thing, and they have to go to this forest and kill someone with a machete and make a run for it. And it's just such a funny moment. But in that funny moment, that's the first time that our John and Jane say I love you to each other. They're like, whatever happens, I love you. And it's a super rushed moment, but it's just like a whoa, like, okay, so this relationship is like growing, and that was a very authentic thing. And I think that really speaks to a great part of this show is, as a viewer, we're trying to figure out, is this love real? Like, is their relationship real? What's going on between the two of them? Are they actually in love? And, if they never met each other, or if they met each other, say, on Tinder or whatever, would they have swiped? Would they have met each other? Would they have fallen in love and eventually got married? Or was the fact that they, gave their lives away and became spies and were forced into a marriage by the agency because they have to pose as a married couple, was that the best thing that happened for them because they're madly in love, and the agency knows how to couple people so well that they know how to put two soulmates together. It's just a really fascinating thing about this show, where we're just constantly questioning, like, is this real or fake? I cannot tell. But then by episode 8, they're really truly in love with each other because they both inject themselves with the truth serum, which, episode 8, the final episode as itself, is such a great homage to the movie, because in episode 7, they fail their third mission. And in this show, you have 3 strikes and then you're out and you're kicked out of the agency. So Donald Glover fails a third mission. And then his Jane, Maya Erskine, gets a message from the agency, take out your Smith, take out John. So she's chasing after him, but there's also someone trying to kill her, and she thinks it's her John. And, John walks into his house, and there's a bomb planted at the door, and he's with his mom. So he's like, okay, we're not going to go inside. And so they think they're trying to kill each other, when in fact it's the other John and Jane that are trying to kill them. So it's just such a great dynamic amongst the different agents. I think episode 8 is such a great nod to the movie, because everyone remembers in the movie when they discover that they're both spies but working for different agencies, and we get that great shootout scene at the house where they're trying to kill each other. That's what all of like episode 8 is. It's them trying to kill each other, and then eventually they give each other truth serum, and they admit that they actually love each other and it was real, and they talk about their insecurities and the problems they're having, but also that like they wouldn't want to do this with anyone else. And just as we're getting this happy moment of, resolution of, wow, they really do love each other, it's revealed that they weren't the only two trying to kill each other. It was actually the entire episode. It was the other John and Jane, as I mentioned, trying to kill them. So it's just great twists and plot points on top of each other building throughout the series. And I loved it. This was what a great start to 2024. I absolutely loved this show, and this is exactly what I like. I love shows like Barry that have great humor, but also great directing and homages to other things, and stories that are both serious and funny, and just great action. And I love espionage stuff. So this was great, and the cliffhanger was just so awesome. And I was like, yeah, that's a great way to end it because I can't wait for season 2. So I'm really looking forward to, I hope they start production soon because I want a season 2 right away, and I hope we get it. So would I recommend this? Absolutely. I've already recommended it to people. I posted on my Instagram how great the show was, and I hope other people watch it. I hope they check it out. It's 8 episodes on Amazon Prime. Go and watch it. It's so funny, but it's also just so well done. It has great balance. It is a really a great show. So that's Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That actually wasn't the only thing I watched this week. Just quickly, what else did I watch? I actually watched Band of Brothers this week because Masters of the Air is out, and I was like, I haven't watched Band of Brothers since probably, oh my God, it's 2024. I probably haven't watched Band of Brothers since 2015, so 9 years. And rewatching it, I am so sure it's one of the best TV shows of all time. I don't care. It is. It's so, every episode is just like a piece of history. And not just as a history major am I saying, I love this stuff because, it's World War II and it's, the biggest war that's ever happened on Earth. But just like the production quality and the writing and the acting in it, everyone is so phenomenal in it. I love it. And watching Masters of the Air, how much I'm loving that really made me go back and watch Band of Brothers. And now I want to go back and watch Saving Private Ryan. Yeah, Band of Brothers, one of the best. What else have I watched? Season 12, the final season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, started on Sunday. A pretty good episode to start the season. I mean, I don't think it was Curb at its best, but just really funny and a lot of great situations going on involving Larry's glasses that I really loved. I do hope there's more of a storyline coming through at the end of the episode. He's arrested, and that might be like, is this going to be like the Seinfeld final episode where they're in jail or whatever? Who knows where Curb's going to go, but I'm really sad it's ending, but at the same time, one of the best comedies of all time, I think, Curb Your Enthusiasm. And my girlfriend and I have been rewatching a lot of the seasons of Survivor. We've watched 37 to 40 now is what we're on. We're on season 40, and I've seen them all, I believe, other than maybe 35 to 36. Yeah, 35, 36 I think I haven't seen, but I've seen the rest of them. So we're rewatching that because she's never seen Survivor, and she's absolutely obsessed now. So that's been really great. We're on Winners at War, which is all, they bring 20 winners back from the past, including, Sandra, who's won 2 seasons. So we're about 5 or 6 episodes into that, and Boston Rob was just voted out. Absolutely loving it. I love Survivor. That is one of my favorite shows of all time. I think it's the best reality show of all time. It's just, there's nothing like Survivor, of putting, Lord of the Flies type thing, of just humans on an island all interacting. So yeah, I've been watching lots of stuff, and Masters of the Air is every week, Curb's now every week, Mr. and Mrs. Smith came out, lots of good new stuff coming out, but also there's great other shows to go back and rewatch, like Band of Brothers. And next week for the show, I'm going to talk about Madam Web, which I think is already looking really terrible. So, I mean, fingers crossed it's okay, but we're not guaranteed anything in life. It's not looking good, based on how all the cast members are talking about it. I think it might be a bomb, and who knows, maybe Sydney Sweeney will draw people in, all the Euphoria fans, because she's beloved by everyone, but it's not looking good. And I think the sooner the Sony Marvel universe ends, the better. And we had some sneak peeks at Deadpool 3 of like photos and stuff like that. I think that's going to be really good, but Madam Web is not looking like a hit. And I think that about does it for this week, guys. Did we just finish another episode? I think we did. That's episode 4, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I hope you watch it. Make sure you pause before the spoiler section. Go and watch it. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode. You can get in touch with me by email at watcherofallthings@gmail.com. You can subscribe on YouTube, leave a like. You can comment on the podcast. Maybe you're watching it there, or you can go to a podcast platform like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. This is a show produced with Acast. You can rate and review on any of those platforms. It helps the show grow. That would be greatly appreciated. Why not leave a like? Why not subscribe? Why not yada, 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 all that stuff, Why not get in touch with me? Send me an email at watcherofallthings@gmail.com. Follow me on Letterboxd, KikiJ70. That's KIKIJ70 on Letterboxd. Next week, we're talking Madam Web. I'm seeing it on Thursday night. I'm going to record right after. The episode will come out on Monday as normal. I got to edit the show while on the road traveling for family day. I hope you've enjoyed this. Have another phenomenal week. Hopefully my butt's not still sore by then. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you all soon.